Something very interesting happened today, and I forget the thoughts behind this reminiscence. It was back then in college. Something happened with the leadership style in our class. So every single person was asked to make a contribution, make a suggestion. What do we want? How can we move the class further? And immediately I raised my hand, and the lecturer gestured me to stand. That would be the beginning of 29 people's lives. So it was around the time I just got my first Mercedes. Usually, when you start on your path to personal development, when you start your path, your journey to success, most times it's out of hate, it's out of spite. This person said something to me, or this lady, she said something very hurtful before she left, or your parents, they did something to you, some kind of negativity. Very rarely do you start your path and journey to success out of positivity, out of trying to help. There must be negativity or something evil imbued behind your intention. Although as you begin to walk the journey of success, your priority changes over time, which is a different discourse in and of itself. But primarily, the journey to success started. I walked into the examination hall and it was pouring rain. I came all wet. Hello, sir, I'm here for the exam. Why are you late? Traffic, XYZ. In fact, it's fine. Come to the front. Sit down with this lady. Excited because this was a smart lady. And this was way before I became intelligent or decided to take my life seriously. And in fact, that was one of the deciding factors, the pivotal moments as touching if I'm NSI. The lady now done with all the questions, just waiting for the instruction to submit. Hello, do you know number two? Let me just quickly copy it. You wish. Instantly, I paused. Did this fucking nobody just say this to me in an exam hall, a 3 credit load course? Is this what you said? I remember getting up and submitting that empty script out of annoyance. I went back home thinking what I'm going to do, thinking of how to move my life forward. So fast forward years later, when I acquired my first Mercedes, I go up to this lady and I say, remember what you said to me while we were in second year? Yeah, I know we are in our finals, but do you remember what you said to me? She goes, no. Yes, you fucking can't. Because I'm just one of your victims. You have done this to countless people, I guess. Well, I relayed the whole situation to her. Do you have a Mercedes? Exactly. And I start by sharing with the class that intelligence is not being able to answer 3 questions. Intelligence is not being able to memorize a few concepts, relay it on paper. My real definition of intelligence is the ability to get the outcome you desire, the ability to get what you want out of life. That is the true definition of intelligence. Most of you have knowledge, not intelligence, let alone wisdom. So you are far behind the scale of life. Unfortunately, they've managed to convince you that somehow having a first class guarantees success. My friend, I've signed out. All those questions that you're going to ask once people start imbuing matter is like a ritual over here in Africa. Once you sign out or your last day in school, you put on a white dress and everybody begins to write rubbish on your shirt or whatever vest you're wearing. I told them I've been through all of that in my mind. So I've signed out those questions, that confusion, the range of emotion that comes after graduation. I've experienced it all. And I'm here to tell you, the first class majority of you clamper, stab one another in the back, go behind your colleague in order to relay secret information to lecturers to somehow please them or become their favorite or for some kind of unknown benefit or a future favor is asinine. One of the ways you get ahead in life is being able to provide value to people, being able to be social and network your way up. And by social, you don't have to take it to the extreme by laughing foolishly or becoming a clown, smiling to every joke or accepting every request. No, that's far from it. There's a lady here who used to help me out with my assignments and some things that I would not state publicly. And I did something for her back in return. And I believe it will be able to sustain for quite a period of time. Now, that level of results wouldn't have been possible if she was not valuable to me. The point I'm trying to highlight is that majority of you who close your book during the exam hall, majority of you who refrain from helping, is going to do you more harm in the future than otherwise. Again, I'm not encouraging nonchalance. I see some of you already smiling and jerking up to this kind of conversation. No, I'm not encouraging this idea that you shouldn't study, then carry all your blame to someone who has paid the price in sacrifice, sleep, and all kind of pain associated with that result. Then you come along after spending endless of hours not even working or doing something productive from a movie theater or from Netflix or from doing something that doesn't advance you forward. Pour your problems on that individual. Hell no. But what I am clearly against is the unnecessary discrimination, especially in the exam hall. Again, I'm not encouraging to help to your detriment. For instance, you're done with question one, question two. It's time to turn because you have limited time. You stop, wait till it's done before you move on. No, that's just stupidity. However, what I clearly am against is like in the case of that young lady, is deliberately being wicked. Majority of you don't understand how the university works. So let me reiterate. And if you've been attending class long enough, there's something called zero sum game in the subject of game theory. This concept says the results of one player depends on that of the other. So the success of one player is hinged upon the failure of his opponent. For instance, football. For one team to go home with 3 points, the other has to lose the 3 points. The university isn't like that. If I get the first class and you finish with the first class, it doesn't cancel it out in any way. So this idea that you're trying to be the best, you're trying to not help anybody in order to attain the best results is flawed. Again, I reiterate, I'm not encouraging this nonchalance towards your studies, but it is possible to help your partner pass. It is possible to scale your partner. This saying, you never know where you meet someone tomorrow. It's very true. There are a lot of this, I won't say a lot, but there are a few people who has offered value to me in the past. And by God's grace, I've been able to reciprocate now that I'm in a very fortunate position. That result wouldn't have been possible if they fucked up in the first place. So university is not a zero-sum game. Your success doesn't cancel out the success of the other person. Your success isn't hinged upon the failure of your opponent. In fact, nobody is your opponent here. Every single person is your colleague. So this first class that they have deluded you to convince you to fight for it so hard at the detriment of your relationship, at the detriment of the alliances you would forge, is flawed. It is stupid. There's even a young man, I would not say his name, some fair bitch who covers his book. At this age, you are covering your book. If it's an instruction from the lecturer, it's a different case. In fact, what lecturer in his right senses, my friend, why are you talking? This guy is tensed, he's filled with emotion. He forgot the spelling of behavior. Well, submit your script. You are. It doesn't work that way. As cruel and wicked as most of you perceive our lecturers to be, they are not stupid. You don't get to that level without the advantage of relationship, without the advantage of patience, without the advantage of diplomacy. Diplomacy is something most Christians lack, and my apologies to say this. In fact, I'm not sorry, I'm saying the truth. Diplomacy is something Christians lack. Most Christians, in fact. Diplomacy is the ability to not see life statically, to not see life as narrow, the ability to be dynamic, to embrace the whole part of the cosmos. Behold, I send you as sheep unto wolves. In that scripture, it clearly states your nature, but it also states where it's sending you to. So if you do not understand the laws of the jungle, you will get eaten. Literally. If you do not understand how the game is played, you will get eaten. So this foolish idea that majority of you have, one man soldier, only me, that I can achieve success without the help of anybody. And if you put in enough effort, it will only get you as far. But in a long enough time frame, you need a team. You need a team. In fact, this is something I learned before starting any business. As intelligent and as charismatic and all of the qualities I've so paid the price to develop, I'm still limited. If I don't find a way to cast the vision upon other people who are willing to come on this journey, I look forward to a very, very brief existence. Only you can do everything. In fact, if you study the early church, one of the cause of death for the patriarchs was stress. Most of them didn't have the ability to interact with enlightened mind. So, from a ministerial perspective or from an administration perspective, no, let me not contradict myself. Let me switch the word. From a teaching perspective and doing God's work, they were very sound. But when it comes to administration, managing people, relationship, they were terrible at it. They wanted to do everything themselves. They were the pastor. They would oversee the cleaning. They would look through the finances. They would count the offering. They were trying to embody every single thing by themselves. And as a result, it led to their early deaths. It led to their early graves. So majority of you who have this stupid idea, first of all, let me debunk this idea that first class or having a certificate guarantees success. It's absolutely and utterly false. I don't have certificates. I don't have first class yet at the time. But people who work for me do. And I do it out of spite. Not necessarily because I believe somehow these first class guys are intelligent, but I do it in a very spiteful way, in a sarcastic manner. You work so hard to become first class, and now you're working so hard for me who doesn't have a certificate. To me, I find it amusing. Let me ask every single one of you a question. How many people are going to graduate from this class? 100 and something. How many people will graduate from our faculty? Thousands, maybe. How many people will graduate from our set in this university alone? Hundreds of thousands. So, how many people would graduate from various universities, not just in our state alone, but entirely private universities, state universities, federal universities, polytechnics? How many people are coming out with this piece of paper saying, hire me, I'm valuable? So, what then becomes your distinction? And in fact, this is a perfect place to state it because we are all economic students. You understand the concept of demand and supply. When the supply is high, what happens to demand? Exactly. So what becomes the distinguishing factor between you, the first class guy, and you, the first class guy? Your ability to be a team man, your ability to develop certain skills that distinguishes you. Again, I'm not a fan of being obsequious. What that means is to be servile because of this teaching. Nobody knows where you meet him tomorrow. Nobody knows tomorrow. You become overtly free. No, there are boundaries and there are standards. You don't have to laugh and smile at every joke or every comment. You don't have to respond to everything with this flawed idea of walking on eggshells. I'm not trying to upset anybody, so in the future, he would help me. In fact, that is a stupid mindset in and of itself. Because there are majority of people who are waiting after this teaching to take advantage of the imbalance. So let me balance it out real quickly. That's conformity, which is a different podcast in and of itself. But conformity, as you know it, is lack of courage, the ability to try and fit in to a certain narrative, adopt the slangs, adopt what is normal in order to reciprocate friendship. Even friendship in and of itself determines the parties involved to be congenial. Can two work together except they be agreed? Exactly, no, says the Bible. So conformity has existed since the dawn of time. However, the point I'm trying to communicate to every single one of you is that your first class ends you working for me. First class will only give you or will only have you or will only position you to work for people who thought outside the box. Every single person has what you have or what you aspire to have. Yet, what becomes a distinction? If you have this stupid idea that somehow your certificate guarantees success, my friend, wake up to reality. It's never going to happen. In fact, let's look at the average salary over here in Nigeria. You, XYZ, I know you are a first class aspirant. I'm sure you've done your research. What's the monthly salary of the average Nigerian? How much? 300,000. Okay, 300,000. That's way more than what Nigerians pay. But let's accept your term. 300,000 in a month. Let's double it. Let's triple it. In fact, for simplicity of math, ₦1 million monthly. So ₦1 million multiplied by 12 in 5 years. No, let's say you had a place to sleep, you had a place to eat, and you walked to work every single day. If you save all of those money together in 5 years, you still could not afford one of my car. One of my Mercedes, I think, is 70 million naira thereabout. Or after 5 years, not taking into account inflation, then you'll be able to afford one of my cars. Isn't that dumb? Doesn't that tell you something is wrong? That there's something you are yet to understand about how the world works? Before I move on, let me iterate. I do not give you this personal anecdote to brag or to feel proud. How you perceive me is none of my business. People who know me from the first year, I do not give a shit about your opinion. If you say something that's unpleasant to me, I would ignore you. I have no time for stupid things. So how you perceive me is none of my business. Since we have had that point established, let's move on. Something is wrong. Spend your youth. And when I get into conversations like this, it's mostly elaborate because I detest the idea of seeing young men waste their life. There are some of you, after tonight's discourse, who would sit down and deeply think about their life, deeply think about where they are headed. There are the others who would converse with women on their way home. Very stupid people. In fact, you fail to realize that these women can actually be picked up by some fraudster or some mafia boss or some guy. These women have the potential to fly to Dubai with just one DM. You do not have such luxury, and yet you're working with them, foolishly believing you're on the same plane. That's like a 50-year-old man playing with an 18-year-old child. The 18-year-old guy can repent after 4 to 5 years and begin his life or start some career or go back and take some kind of education. Conversely, time is not on the other guy's side. That's how some of you operate. Go home, do your homework. What is money? This thing I desperately want. How can I get it? What is it? What am I pursuing? Well, money is a medium of fucking dumb. That's what they told you in your textbook, and that's why you're fucking poor. There are two ways to get women. In fact, let me quickly interject. The first is spend your time in order to get women. How was your day? Have you eaten? In fact, when I see people do engage in those kind of stupid activity, it pisses me off because I see life. Maybe that's how my mind works. I see things as a parallel: action, reaction, decision, consequence. So if I engage in this mindless activity, to what end? If I spend hours of my time that turns into days, morphs into weeks, weeks into months, for some of you, years, courting this lady, to what end? For a 50-minute session? Is that it? Is that the best thing I could be doing with my time? For a 50-minute session? Some of you understand this concept completely. Some of you are already thinking. You understand this, but this idea of confronting the truth is uncomfortable. Majority of you do not want to think about things deeply. Let's just keep moving. Let's hope that something would happen along the line. I'll meet someone, or nobody wins the Olympic by luck. Ever watched a boxing interview and backstage, in the process of speaking with the champion, He goes, yeah, I threw a lucky punch. I wasn't prepared for this fight. It just happened by magic. Or an athlete. Yeah, other athletes were tired and I just got lucky. The wind blew me forward. Nothing happens by alchemy. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Something to change. Something has to change. According to the law of mechanics, it states that an object will forever remain static except an external force higher compels it to act otherwise. Your life can be like that object, static in a position until something external compels it to act otherwise. For the sake of time, the real point I want to drive in home is this first class. Majority of you are ready to sell out to your colleagues. Majority of you are willing to leak class secrets. Majority of you are willing to give up your body, give up intimacy, do all kinds of things to attain this piece of paper that says you are valuable. Doesn't guarantee your success. I interject this personal anecdotes. A majority of people who know me know I rarely speak and it's deliberate. But I do not say all of this to brag or to tell you I'm better. But this is inspiring and to challenge you that it is possible. As somebody you are seeing in the flesh is doing all of these amazing things. And I met him in 100 level. I saw how he started. And all of this is happening before my eyes. It's possible for me. And if you text me, I would not respond. Not necessarily because I'm proud, which is one of these, by the way, but because I'm busy. And if there's anything you've learned from the moments we've spent, I have little patience with stupid things. Majority of you love talk. Majority of you want to come to my DM and receive inspiration, receive motivation. My life is messed up. What can I do? In fact, this idea that you think you would magically get rich by receiving a link, especially when you are the lowest echelon of society, peon, because no investment leak can benefit you. You don't have enough capital to take advantage. All you have now is your time. The only thing you can trade for money is your time. In fact, this is not a business seminar. We are trying to address real problems in this class. But one thing I would say to every single one of you, especially as a young man, is to start panicking. Start panicking. The Titanic just hit the iceberg. Start looking for a lifeboat now. Do not wait till every single person is scampering around. The lifeboat decreases. You will be forced to sink with the Titanic and watch women and children go. It's the same concept that can be extrapolated to your life. You will be forced to see the lady you're currently courting go with another man while you sink down in financial ruin. In fact, let's make a test. Let's do a real life test. Hello, what's up? How are you doing? What's your name? Success. Success. I stay in a very big fat mansion with a private pool. You have access to champagne worth millions of naira. Do you want to come? Exactly. You, what's your name? I'll call you light skin. Light skin. I'll be in Dubai in a few months' time. Would you like to tag along? Oops. Oops. Oh, I was trying to get her to come to my house and do you see how much of a fuck up you guys' life are? Again, I'm not trying to detest or downplay every single one of you, but this is to challenge you to step up, to be to relinquish this mindset of first class and be more dynamic. Accept the holistic counsel of the Lord. says the Bible. Accept the holistic counsel of Ifeanyi. This is a call for every single one of you to take your eyes off this first class thing. Not because it's not desirable. I want you to get that shit out of your system. That I'm no longer going to backstab my colleagues. I'm no longer going to leak class information because of favor. I'm no longer going to be a lecturer's puppet. I'm going to cut every single ties that's to the detriment of this class in order for some kind of benefit. There are two kinds of people in life, the ones that snake and the ones that are honest. If you're a snake, you will receive benefits in the short term, but in a long enough time frame, nobody's going to want to do business with you because your matter would have been leaked. And even the person you are snaking to doesn't even trust you, because if you can do it to someone, you can also do it to him. As I initially stated, these lecturers are not stupid. You do not get here by luck. I've had some important files come to my table, and I know how they got there, and I know who they talked to before they got access to me. So success is not luck. Get that shit out of your system. These people are not stupid. So selling out your class in order to paint yourself as a saint, immediately your back is turned. They're laughing their ass out because you're fucking stupid. That's what you are. So you might receive benefits in the short term, but the energy alone around you will repel success. And there are other people who are honest. Unfortunately, honesty doesn't pay in the short term. On a long enough time frame, you will reap the dividends. And we live in an age of infinite leverage. Your actions can be multiplied 1,000 folds, either by capital, by code, or media. Buffett has established credibility in the public domain. That's why he's doing deals worth billions of dollars, bailing out bank, because he's a honest man. Honesty is something that compounds. I remember there was a time, especially in this class, where I was, I can't recall, I was not in class, I was not in the school environment. So someone was helping me out with the assignments. And we were paying. It got so bad. I had to ask myself, whoa, what's happening here? Why am I sending money every single day? And I kid you not, every single day, either on assignments or textbook or some kind of shitty payments that just grew, and every single person is involved. If not because of the integrity of that person, I knew at the back of my mind that XYZ is never going to sell me out because of a few thousands of naira, because of a few dollars. That was how that relationship continued. And in fact, I forget who told me, who confirmed my suspicions. He came along and said, we've been paying every single time, almost every day, there's something to pay. So he echoed my complaints, which vindicated XYZ person. So integrity is something every single one of you should develop. Stop selling us out. Stop leaking class secrets. Stop sending screenshots to lecturers. Stop forwarding voice notes. It is terrible. In fact, I'm so terrified of this class. I do not open your group, but if I'm to speak there, I use it to view one's voice note, especially when I'm calling out a class rep, because there are people who will take that voice note forward to lecturers in order to portray themselves as a saint or to get some kind of benefit at the expense of the other person. Log into your portal, an exam, you knew you aced this exam, and you're seeing a result that is incongruent to what you wrote. This is the cause. Someone has said something with evidence that produced that result. So stop selling us out. Stop leaking information. It is terrible. And for those of you who are first class aspirants, do not give up. Yes, you might not be dressed in the best of conditions. Yes, you might not use the latest iPhone series. But if anybody tries to oppress you, I want you to use this philosophy that's gotten me through hard times, gotten me to this level I am. Is a quote from Machiavelli, a man touted to have understood power at an intricate level. The end shall justify the means. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one. And after that speech, 29 people became millionaires. 29 people became millionaires after that speech. So I believe you are the 30th person. Let's keep it here. Now, to you, the audience, not those guys, to you. As always, my friends, a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.